That's right. We're here with Martin Trunnion. You definitely know them because their social media is amazing. I think that's partially due to Michael, but Stan is the man. That's kind of a song in some places, I think, as well. Martin Trunnion Tables, family-owned and operated Kentucky company. This guy, first time I saw him, took me to a nice lunch. Man, it just felt like he was family already. Except I know you guys want to learn about technology, don't you? Yes, we do. Of course, Stan, let's talk about Martin Trunnion, a little tiny bit about the history before we throw this over to Michael and start talking about technology.
So we started off as a job shop. We did job shop work for 15 years. I always tell people the reason I made the first Trunnion table is because I was lazy. I was lazy because I was tired of handling parts, and I was sitting at home one Friday night on my front porch drinking a beer and being aggravated because we didn't get as much out the door as I had hoped that week. And the thought came to my head, if I made a table that rotated on my Haas fourth axis, I could eliminate all these extra handlings. And again, being a lazy man, I wanted to do as little as possible. So the first one we developed ran for maybe 3 or 4 years. We had one on every machine in the shop, and we decided, I really think I could sell these on an open market. So we started selling them about 15 years ago, and this is all we do now, is Trunnion table, tombstone style fixturing for vertical machining centers.
Guys, he was so lazy he started his own company and sells to everyone across the country. I don't think lazy is the right word. I'm going to go with creative. With that being said, let's go to his son Michael and talk about Martin Trunnion. Good job. That was awesome.
Nick, the rotary tables with trunnions on them, which is obviously what you guys do best. But just for the people who don't necessarily know what rotary tables are, what a trunnion is, who should be interested in some of these products, and what might they be surprised by?
I think that any company that primarily runs vertical machining centers that's really looking to improve throughput within those machines without maybe investing in brand new equipment and just wants to improve the processes of the equipment that they have, they're really going to get benefit out of a system like this.
Okay, so these are people with kind of VMCs that may be a little bit more on the budget side, or even high-spec VMCs. But, I mean, guys, if you imagine in your shop floors, wherever you are, if you've got a big machining bed, they might just have a single machine vise. What's wrong with that?
Absolutely. Well, obviously a single machine vise, it limits your throughput tremendously, and additionally, it doesn't allow you to access the angles of the parts that you need, to really get the volume that the VMC is capable of.
Yeah, because no one makes a part that only takes one operation, right? Who makes a part like that?
I assume mainly just people doing, I guess, only plate work or something like that.
And there's not many of those, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, as parts are getting more complicated, they need more operations and more setups. And why would you want to make sure that you can do all those operations in one?
Well, we all know it's difficult to find skilled labor operators nowadays, and so if you have a setup where you can load a part once and then walk away from it, and you know that part is being machined at every angle that's necessary on a setup like this, it reduces the possibility of that part being scrapped, because now I'm not taking that part and moving it from vise to vise and accidentally flipping it the wrong way or putting it in the vise wrong. Where a system like this allows you to just handle the part once and then walk away from it for possibly hours or minutes at a time.
So if someone's listening who runs a machine shop and they're changing parts from vise to vise, or maybe from machine to machine, how much lost time do you think there is there? How much of that could be saved by adopting a Trunnion setup?
I mean, I would say a majority of the time you're spending now.
With the majority, so all of that time spent taken between machines?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So if you've heard that and you think, oh my God, I need one of these Trunnions, let's have a look at the three Trunnions you've got on the left of the stand here. So we're starting off, there's loads of different kinds of rotary tables you guys work with, and we're going to talk about those a little bit later. But first of all, we're looking at a 4-sided Trunnion here. Like, how many parts could you fit on this?
Yeah, so here you can obviously fit 12 parts on the setup. It's made specific for the NIC and NCT 200 that you see here, and then we have the outboard support as well that's specific for the center height of the assembly that we have on the left.
Okay, so this is built specifically for the NCT 200 here, but I guess you guys work with different rotary table manufacturers?
Yeah, I think we've just about put a Trunnion on every rotary table there is in the market.
On every single rotary table. Okay, I love that. You work with anyone; it doesn't matter who it is. So, now the fact that we've got 12 parts on this, what kind of batch runs, what kind of volume work, I guess, would you want to be doing before you start looking at a system like this?
To be honest with you, I think that even if you're a high mix shop that might be doing prototyping work, while you might not be looking at a setup like this that's four-sided, having a system in place that allows you to get to those different part angles, even on a low volume run, adds tremendous flexibility to your shop.
Absolutely, and we are streaming live right now from IMTS 2022. Make sure you get your questions in for either Michael here or Stan, who started Martin Trunnion. So these two guys are the people to talk to about Trunnion systems. If you've got any questions, send those in right now. Okay, thank you very much, Michael. We've looked at the high volume setup, and this is a four-sided Trunnion. If we move over, I guess one of the constraints of a four-sided setup is the part height and the part size, I guess. Why would you want to go for a two-sided Trunnion setup?
Yeah, so a setup like this, obviously there are two sides and you can get additional volume out of it, but it allows for taller parts, right? And a system like this is integrated with pneumatics with the shunt KSP vices, so it's really ideal for a robotics application. Maybe you're loading a taller part where you don't want to affect your Z clearance or you don't want to affect clearance below, but you still want some additional throughput. Okay,
so if you imagine you had a rotary table and a robot too, what could be just a standard vertical machine tool, you've got an automated four-axis system, and I guess you wouldn't be spending half as much maybe as a full machine tool that had the same capability.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what's the value in people going for this kind of modular solution? Why shouldn't people go for a single machine that can handle the fourth axis or the fifth axis? Why should they go kind of a VMC and then add a rotary table to it?
Well, I mean, most of us already have a VMC in our shops now, right? So it's important that before we might make the leap to buying a brand new machining center, maybe a 5-axis machining center, that we look at the products like this that are available already that can really increase our volume and our throughput as is.
And if you imagine there's not many people in the market for a brand new machine tool, especially as material costs are increasing, part costs are increasing, there's a lot of people out there right now with a VMC, they might not be getting all the capacity out of their machine tool. How many machine shops do you think might be thinking, I need a Trunnion, I need a rotary table, and what problems would they be having right now? I mean, are they struggling with changeover times mostly? Are they struggling with just getting the part tolerances, part quality?
Yeah, I mean, I think what shops are struggling with is that maybe they don't have the resources in-house to make a custom fixture for every angle that they need to hit on a part, and that they implemented a simple system like this, that would give them the flexibility so that somebody with basic machining experience could come in and utilize this without making a bunch of different angle plates and sign plates to hit those different angles.
Could you imagine a shelf covered in angle plates with custom fixturing? You need to know exactly what was done for what unless you labeled everything. This is all about standardizing that system of making four-axis and five-axis parts, but on a budget VMC that we've all got. Let's move on to the next one, the last but not least Trunnion setup in this range, and we've got a three-sided setup here.
So the three-sided setup, I like to think it's a perfect blend of productivity and tool clearance. So you have the added volume of the three sides, of course, but with a system like this, you have better tool clearance because with four sides, you risk your spindle, hitting the rest of the tooling on the other faces. So this also features a 2-inch grid pattern, which we're showing off for just added flexibility. We all know that majority of the vices and tooling that we use on the market today will fit to that standard 2-inch grid, and of course we're utilizing products from AMROC and then Triag as well.
Absolutely. There's loads of different kinds of work holding here, which I absolutely find fascinating. You've not standardized across the sides, so you've got loads of different options, flexibility, so one side could have a very different kind of part to the other side here. Also, we're streaming live, so if you've got any questions, please send those in. If you've got any questions for Stan, who's going to be on in a little bit with Tony Gunn, but I find this absolutely fascinating. Can I just find out what this tailstock is here? What would you call this?
Yeah, so this is our TS1200 hydraulic braking outboard support. And basically, it hooks straight to the solenoid valve and the rotary table so that when the brake in this Comet rotary table clamps, so do we on the other end. And it keeps our entire system just super rigid so that if you're machining, far off center line of rotation or you're really taking heavy cuts at a hard material, you can be assured that your entire fixture remains, as rigid as you need it to be.
And rigidity and accuracy is really important when you want to be taking big cuts and hogging out and being productive. And I guess it helps that you don't have to integrate an extra piece of hydraulic or pneumatics to the machine. And I'm amazed by the simplicity of the system. But can I just ask, this base isn't that simple. Do people have to worry about the T-slots in their machines? How do you guys handle the base plates?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of standard, base plates that we use with all the basic T-slot spacings that our customers use on a daily basis. And so In this case, we're obviously mounting to a 2-inch grid here. But if you had 100 millimeter T-slot spacing or 125 millimeter T-slot spacing, we would put the counterbore specifically in those places, along with a couple of reamed holes for locating it onto those T-slots.
So you just bang it straight on the machine bed, screw up those screws, and you can almost have a plug and play 4th axis system.
Absolutely, and a system like this allows you to take the entire 4th axis assembly in and out of the machine repeatably and quickly because, again, today it's all about setup time, right? So if we can minimize that setup time by having a repeatable solution like even just a simple base plate like this, it can really improve our efficiencies.
Absolutely. Plug and play Trunnion systems. Now we're going to go on to Stan, get those questions in for him. Over to Tony Gunn.
Rowan, Michael, really a great job. We appreciate that. To the audience who's watching right now, I know you love it when we ask the hard questions. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop the elephant in the room with Stan the Man again, which is, I hear the rumor that a lot of people are telling you, why would I buy one when I can make my own?
Real simple. The tolerances that we hold on these trunnion tables, for instance, are 5/10 flatness, TIR, squareness. If you try to do, plus we're making them out of a 1 solid piece casting. By the time you do all that and try to get apart to those tight of tolerances, you will have far more money in this fixture than you could buy 10 of them once you figure out how to do all that.
So you're pretty much saying that, firstly, there's so much involved that goes into what you're making when it comes to tolerances and precision and finishes and all of that, that even if you could do it because you have the machines to do it, the time it takes to do that, why not just go to someone who's already perfected the art at a much more cost-effective rate and let them do it for you, and then you can support with service and everything that goes along with it. Is that correct?
Exactly. I've also had people come up to me and say, yeah, my boss, after he priced yours, said, we can make it for that. And I've had multiple guys say, 4 weeks later, I'm still trying to get it to work correctly.
I can honestly say I thought I could do a couple of projects in my day too. I've even went on YouTube to try and do it. I'd rather call somebody like yourself the expert. With that being said, we have 3 really great cells over here we're going to walk through. And we're starting with this one here. I believe this is your automation cell. Can you describe how this works for the audience, Stan?
Sure. So we mount onto our standard 9x23. This particular trunnion has 2 shunt pneumatic vices that we have plumbed in through the bottom of the trunnion and out the back. Everything's mounted to a base plate and a foundation plate so that even if the customer takes the entire assembly off the machine, they can put it back on with about 1 thou repeatability every single time. And we feel like that's very important because you don't want to disassemble this every time you take it off the machine and put it back on in a bunch of pieces, because every time you do that, you're going to lose a little bit of accuracy. So I would suggest always buying this as a complete package. The reason we came up with this, though, this whole package, is for people that are doing robot loading for the most part. With 2 automatic vices, the robot can load this night and day unattended. And that's the point that we're trying to get everybody to because of the labor shortage.
Stan, I know this is about you, but I had a really great opportunity with my friends over at Allendale, who I know you're friends with also, at one of the greatest high schools in our country. And they were having some automation with your trunnion systems, full-on cobot cell, running the entire thing through the night. And you're exactly right. You put a cobot on here, pneumatic system, you let it run. And you know what we're learning, Stan? I know you know this as well, is the fact that it doesn't have to always be high batches all the time. And I know you guys hear me all the time talking about this high mix, you know, the volume that goes into it. And it's probably being more understood now, but I'm still going to use misconception that it must be 1,000 parts or 10,000 parts or 20,000 parts. What Stan is talking about here is I can run 2 parts on this setup, or even 2 different parts, pop those bad boys off, put a couple new ones in, and we're talking about different jobs rotating through all the time.
Correct.
So pneumatic, which is ultimately one of the best things we're talking about right now when it comes to automation. We have some other setups behind us. Can we talk about what's going on here? It looks like a single setup and a double setup. Have you created these because of the smaller machines that are out there right now? How does this all work?
Right, so a lot of people that run the Fanic Robot drills, the Brother Speedios, they're small bed machines. Well, with this setup, they can still run Trunnion table style parts and get a lot of production out of them. So in this particular one, we're showing two 5th axis vices, which are great vices, mounted to one of their quick change bases. So instead of having the entire table always occupied, when they finish a job, all they have to do is remove this with one screw, and they can put any kind of other fixture on, maybe a 3-jaw chuck or a special fixture, whatever they want, back onto this in less than a minute.
This really is set up for those shops that have those 3-axis machines, and you and I have talked about this before. 5-axis is amazing, and if we're maybe going to invest in a brand new machine of 5-axis, you know, that's great. But if we have existing 3-axis machines, there's no reason to get rid of those or not upgrade. This is the upgrade we need from small, medium, large machines. This is how we can take our first step of going, okay, I have my 3-axis machine, but now I need to do more automation. I need to get more parts. I need to get my precision in. This is where it exists, right?
Exactly. And if you go into most shops or you ask most rotary table salespeople, the percentage I've heard, 80% of rotary tables bought are sitting in the corner collecting dust. So for a few $1,000s, you can put this whole setup on and start running multi-sided parts today. Why wouldn't you do that?
I can't think of a reason. Honestly, I've walked into shops right now that are running a regular 3-axis machine. I see it all the time, and I immediately think to myself, man, you need to do this. You got to get, because ultimately, we're really trying to get to less setups. And the less setups we have, maybe the less operator error. If I don't have to flip it 1, 2, 3 times, I can get maybe the first one on there. And you guys are really great at people being able to do that tab machining too and pop it right off. We're only missing that bottom side, and we can get that done really quickly. This is a form of really great automation, because decades ago, we all invested in 3-axis machines as we were learning about 5-axis. Yeah. So they sit across shops across the country right now. They're there. Why not go into something like the pneumatic one here, the one we're talking about here for the smaller machines? And now let's talk about the third one we have over here as well.
So this is one of our most popular models. This is on our standard 9x23 platform, just like the one with the 2 shrunk vices. But on this one, we're using car locks to quickly change this plate off and on the machine. In less than a minute, a customer can take this car lane vise off the machine that is mounted to this base plate, the subplate, and replace it with any other fixtures that they have that are mounted to a similar subplate. We provide subplates. We can provide virtually anything that they want in order to make this setup work. This particular fixture also has a pneumatic brake on it versus the hydraulic brake on most of our other ones.
So describe the difference. I mean, I understand hydraulic and pneumatic, but describe the difference to the audience watching right now, why they'd want one versus the other, or why one is an upgrade compared to the other.
So the pneumatic brake, a lot of people want the pneumatic brake. A lot of companies do, because they do not want the hydraulic oils in their shop. So for those companies, we developed a 400 foot-pound clamping capacity pneumatic brake. Works great. It gets rid of the hydraulic oil situation, and it gives people the ability to really, really hog parts off center line without anything rotating.
You also mentioned to me before these cameras hit record, which I think is important to convey, is when we were going over the rotary tables, when we were going over the work holding, you mentioned we only work with who we believe to be the best, the highest accuracy, the best precision. What does that quality mean to you when you think of your last name being on every single part that goes out there? It must matter to you when you see your babies being dispersed across the country, right?
Yeah, and that's why we only team with the best of the best. Carlane, 5th Axis, Shunk, Pseudo-Coleman rotary tables, Sam Chully rotary tables, Sankyo rotary tables. We only team up with the very best in the industry, because when we ship something to a customer, I want this to run not for a year, not for 5 years. I want to walk in their shop 10 years later and see this setup running.
There you go. You heard it from Stan. Stan, let's head up to the front and join your son and Rowan for a closing statement. Do you think we could even get your wife over here to say hi? Because I think it's important to say, you know what, Martin Trunnion is a family business. This is the son. This is the father. The wife is headed this way. I think it's so important just to get everyone together and say, thank you. The true boss, right? Is that what you said? The true boss. To get everyone together just to say, this is Martin Trunnion. Do you have any final thoughts for us, Stan?
I just want to say thank you very much for coming in and working with us, and it's been great.
And thank you all for watching. This is IMTS 2022. This is Martin Trunnion. And as they say, stop handling, start machining.